Hi guys, welcome to our People We Meet, and today we get to meet in person because we haven't seen her for a while, Sophie, our friend who lives in Thailand. She did something very special for us. She made these human design charts for each one of us. She sent them to us a few months ago. We read what she explained, but it's better if she tells you in person, so we were happy to be here. First of all, I wanted to ask you, why did you start?
I first found out about human design in 2011. I randomly stumbled across it in my travels when I was in India. It was something that when I had my first human design reading, it made a lot of sense for me, but I also was kind of resistant to it because it was a bit uncomfortable. That can be the case for adults because we end up having a lot of conditioning, so we're not really living our design, we're not really living like our true self. We feel that we have to be a certain way in society, so we kind of come a bit away from our design. For the past few years, I've been using this to help adults come back more to who they truly are. And then when I had my son 3 years ago, it was a really natural transition for me because I'm also a hypnotherapist. So I was using this in conjunction with hypnotherapy to help people to heal unconscious patterns and triggers and things predominantly from their childhood. Yeah. So when I had my son, I was like, oh, well, what about if we just didn't condition our kids in the first place? And what about if we could really understand who they come here to be by using their human design? It's kind of like a map. It shows you kind of, what energy is consistent for you, where your strengths are, where your potential vulnerabilities are. When a parent can really understand their children, and not just their child, but then how they're different from their child, it allows you to just really personalize your parenting, so you get to know what you need. Yeah. Also, particularly, you have 3 kids, so they're all very different. It's never rinse and repeat. I think sometimes people have, oh, my first child was really easy, and they think it's going to be rinse and repeat. Yeah, of course. They're all different. And they're all different. So we can see where there are some similarities maybe with your kids, and maybe where there's some potential friction. And it doesn't mean that there might continuously be friction, and it doesn't mean that we can take it away, but through understanding it, through something like this, we can manage it and we can have healthier relationships, we can have better communication.
Yeah, communication is clearly the key to this.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you know how to talk to them. Already when she did the reading, after we noticed some of our patterns that were causing friction, and we started to apply those things we understood of each other to not have this friction, and it's actually been so much better. So I would definitely recommend it.
It can help with any relationship, so romantic relationships, so 2 parents together, parent-child relationship. If you go more into it, can help you to understand, your own parents and maybe why certain things happen in your own childhood. So it's really healing across generations as well, the further and further you go into it.
But you look at this and you're like, I have no idea what this is. Today, Sophie is gonna explain to us, well, to Cousin Emma in particular, how she reads this. I'm gonna call them and we'll have a little bit more information of what this is all about.
Guys, I'm gonna show you while we are doing this, what Luka is doing, because she explained it really well, that Luka is doing what he wanted. So we are here all together doing this with Sophie, and he's in the bedroom by himself doing his own thing. He's playing with his friends. Luka, who you playing with?
Ben.
Ben? And where is Ben?
He's in the iPad.
Yeah, he's in the iPad, but where is he? Ben, where are you?
In Australia.
But where in Australia?
Victoria.
Okay.
It's just my dad is videoing.
Victoria. We are doing a video, that's why I ask you, because we want to show Luka is doing his thing. Bye, Luka.
Hello, Sophie.
Hello, Sophie.
Let's dive in.
Well, for some reason we couldn't get Luka to come. I don't understand why.
He didn't want to come.
Well, I'm going to explain a little bit to you about human design and some of the basics. There are 4 types in human design, and Luka's a manifestor, which is approximately 9% of the population. And one of the key things to know if you are a manifestor or you have manifestor kids is you can't really tell them what to do. They're going to do their own thing. So out of all of your family, Luka's the only manifestor out of the 5 of you. So he's very likely just going to do his own thing. He's probably not going to listen. I'm a manifestor too, so I can very much relate to that.
So wait, so can you explain us all of the
different
types of, yes.
Yeah, so basically the reason that these look so kind of complex is that it's a synthesis of about 6 or 7 different systems. So astrology, the I Ching, the Kabbalah, the chakra system, all kind of together, which is why it makes it so in-depth. So if anyone who's watching this as well, you know a bit about astrology, you know a lot of the time that's like, wow, yeah, that's really me, like that's really who I am. This goes even deeper. So because it's all of these different systems, it just goes so in depth. Sometimes I kind of say it's like astrology on steroids. There's so many different parts to it, but one of the parts that you learn first off is the types. So there are 4 types. There's manifestors, generators, projectors, and reflectors. Manifestors, like I said, are about 9% of the population. Generators, with a subtype of manifesting generator, are about 70%. The majority of the population are generators or manifesting generators. Projectors are about 20%, and then reflectors just 1%. So what's really interesting, out of the 5 of you, you'd probably expect percentage-wise, you know, most of you would be generators. That's not the case. 3 out of 5 of you are projectors, which is only 20% of the population. And then you've got 1 manifestor, which is 9%. So your mum is the only generator type. She's a manifesting generator. You two and your dad are projectors, and then Luka, like I said, is a manifestor. Each type has its own kind of corresponding aura, which is like your energy field. So it's kind of how people read you when you come into a room, how people feel when you come into a room. Strategy, which is your way to go through life with the least resistance. All of you have the same authority, and authority is the way to make decisions. There are 7 different types of authority. All of you have what's called emotional authority. So those are the basic parts that I would always start to introduce someone to, the type and their authority. So basically how to go through life with the least resistance and how to make decisions according to who you truly are, rather than like asking people, well, what do you think I should do? That's where a lot of adults tend to get tripped up, because we don't really know how to trust ourselves and how to make our own decisions. So it's hugely important for children to be aware as well.
So if you look at the chart, what are like all these symbols on the side and all these colors of the different like shapes?
In the middle, you've got all of these shapes here. These are the 9 energy centers. So if you know anything about the chakra system, there are 7. Here there are 9. So it's kind of a little bit expanded from the chakra system. So there are 9 energy centers, which all represent different themes and different kinds of energy. You'll notice that some are colored in and some are white. So anytime a center is colored in, that's where we've got consistent energy. We are kind of like projecting that energy out. So that energy is something we've got consistent within us, and that energy is kind of like being projected out. Anywhere where somebody is white, where it's not colored in, that's where you're taking in energy from other people, right? And potentially amplifying it. So that can create sometimes some tension in relationships, or it can create kind of like an imbalance. If somebody doesn't know that they're like, for example, absorbing all the emotions of other people, it could cause someone to feel that like they're really sensitive, when actually they're feeling and amplifying the emotions of somebody else, for example, or the mental energy of someone else. So I can see here that Cosimo's got both his head and Ajna center defined, which is about inspiration and thinking and conceptualization, and then Luka doesn't. So sometimes Luka could feel potentially really overwhelmed by all this kind of like mental energy that Cosimo is projecting out, and he might just kind of be a bit like, oh, I need a break. But obviously at a young age, he's not necessarily going to know that or know how to articulate that. So understanding these things, especially for parents to understand their kids, can help you navigate the harmony, especially when there's like multiple kids, and kind of recognize like, who needs what. So these are the 9 energy centers. Down the side, you've got the planets. So you've got one side in red, which is kind of unconscious, the things that we're less aware of, things that are more kind of resident in the body. And then on the right side in black, you've got ones which are more conscious. So there's energies that we're more consciously aware of. Sometimes some of the numbers might be the same, and sometimes they're different. And it purely depends on where the planets were when we were born. You've got like the sun, the earth, the nodes, and these are all, if somebody's familiar with astrology, they would be familiar with these symbols here, all of the different planets. And so you can see the numbers here, for example, there's the moon. You can see that that's there in that center, and it's kind of all ties up like that. And then you've got these arrows and these numbers here, which is like another further layer of human design. So that's why, I mean, it's taken me a long time to learn it, and I'm still learning because there are so many different parts to it. But that's what makes it so fascinating and unique, because it just goes into so much depth.
So you can really learn a lot about yourself.
Yeah, really a lot.
How do you get this chart? How do you create them?
So the charts are all set, so it's not like a personality test where the course of your life, sometimes things can change, like Myers-Briggs or something. It's set depending on your date and time and location of birth. You can go to a free chart generator. I've got one on my website, for example, which we can share. And then you input your birth details. It is important to know your time of birth as well, if not just as close as possible. And that will just generate the chart for you. Once you see this, you're like, well, I still don't get it. I still don't know how to understand that.
It doesn't make much sense.
No, you can obviously search for things, but it's preferable to get get somebody to read it for you, particularly if you've got questions or you want a holistic analysis of kind of how people work together. The way that I really like to work with people is to look at everything, and I don't need to necessarily explain everything about your chart to you because it would just be a lot of information. But for you to kind of understand how you can work together effectively, or if somebody lets me know like where they're having challenges, like the teenagers are fighting or something, or the little brother's just being so annoying and things like that, where I can kind of, because you guys are traveling all together all the time as well, it's so important for you to be able to communicate, and you're not going to get on 100% of the time, but to really be able to understand each other's strengths, weaknesses, know where the buttons are and when to push them or not, and those kinds of things. So I like to give people kind of practical advice on their charts.
What are the attributes of a generator, of a manifestor, of a projector, and a reflector? I always think when you say my mom's a generator that, we like hook up to her energy and are charging ourselves.
Kind of, yeah, it's kind of like that. You can see if you look at your charts here, this is your mom's chart, right? This is the sacral center, right? So any generators or manifesting generators have this one colored in. And this center, the energy of this, is kind of like a battery. So it's this kind of energy, this sustainable like regenerative force. So it is kind of like a battery in a way that you're plugging into. Your mom is going to set the energy really for the household, for the family, and she's probably going to have more energy to get things done, right? The rest of you are what we would call non-sacral types because you don't have this sacral center defined. So she's kind of the one that does have basically all this generative energy. You are kind of plugging into her, but it's really important for Mass and for you three kids to know that you just need a lot more rest. You don't have to keep up with your mom, and also important for her to know that her children might need a bit more rest than some others. I have a generator child, he's got a lot of energy, he's also 3. You know, with kids as well, it also then goes on developmental stages. So, you know, you're kind of like, you know, in the teenage years, you're going to be needing a lot more rest anyway because of hormones and stuff. It's unusual because all 3 of you kids like are not generators, but say you had like, you know, 2 kids that maybe were generators and one's a projector and needs a lot more rest, that child could be like, oh God, why can't I keep up with the rest of the family kind of thing. So it helps to just understand, you know, why one child maybe needs more rest. In this case, all 3 of you are going to need rest and downtime, and that's really good then for you to understand planning your travels. You maybe don't want to be doing too much. You need like a lot of down days, especially like for Mass as well, where you can rest, because otherwise your mom's going to feel like she's taking on like all of the things because she's the only one with that like.
So generators will have a lot more energy in general. Typically,
yeah. It does depend on a couple of like nuances, which I won't, you know, confuse you about the details, but generally, yeah, generators are going to have more energy. It has to be doing something that they love. So, you know, it's really important, particularly for generators, that they're doing work that they love. Yeah, they tend to have more energy. Manifestors, like I said, so dear Luka, are just going to do their own thing. It's really important for them to know that they have a lot of impact on other people, but they're kind of like a wild card to just do their own thing. So again,
it reminds me, when we were in Istanbul, Luka would meet this gelato guy, and this gelato guy, he influenced everyone, was like, oh, I know you, like he really made a big impact. Every time we go back there,
it's like, Tarzan!
And they're there, he lets him back, so I can see that.
Again, he's not going to be aware of that because manifestors just aren't aware they have this big impact. Basically, people can't read them, and so people are a bit intrigued by them, but they don't know that. So manifestors kind of need to know that they have this big impact, and people can't like read them and understand them. So again, you can use effective communication so that they can be better understood. As we've seen, Luka's just going to go off and do his own thing.
So they manifest their potential in general, just everything. Okay.
Everybody can manifest things, but they kind of in a way don't need, they don't sort of need anyone else. They just go and do their own thing.
And then projectors?
And projectors are here to be really good guides. So as I said, it's unusual. The 3 of you are projectors, so you 2 and your dad. Again, in different ways, because we can look at your charts and see, okay, well, you're all projectors, but you've still got parts about your chart that are very different. But essentially, a trait of the projectors is to be guides. So projectors are very good at reading people. 1-to-1 is best, because a projector is designed to really almost see into the soul or the identity center of another person. So they can just see somebody really deeply, and they can give them really good wisdom and guidance. But the key is they have to be recognized, so they have to feel like that other person really sees them and invite them to give their guidance. Otherwise, to the other person, it can feel just like really invasive. The key for projectors is to wait to be recognized and invited before they give their guidance. But then once they do, if anyone has a projector child, they just come up with the most incredible things sometimes. You're like, where did that come from? It's amazing wisdom. Yeah,
and it's true. When we meet other kids, me and Emma are always the ones, let's say, bring everyone together, I notice. And then when we were by ourselves this time, we want to find out more about them.
Yeah,
just that's
so kind of inquisitive, yeah. So projectors tend to be really good at mastering systems as well. So this is obviously a system, amalgamation of different systems. So projectors tend to be really just insightful at any kinds of system and really kind of working things out. And then reflectors, obviously we don't have one here, but in a reflector, all of the centers in their chart are white. So they're all open. So they're basically there to kind of like sample the energy from other people and reflect it back to them. That's a really unique characteristic of them. That's only 1% of the population.
Yeah, so reflectors are the rarest, let's say.
The rarest, yeah, 1%.
And then the most common would be...
generators and manifesting generators together,
yeah.
And then projectors and then manifestors.
Huh, okay.
So if I were to want to learn more about how to read charts and how to make them, and where would I start? How would I do it? Because it's so much to know, so much information.
There is a lot to know. Like I've been studying solidly for, I'd say, for about 5 years. Practicing is the best thing. So, I mean, there are many places you can learn how to read human design charts. You can firstly get your free chart, which will give you a bit of an explanation from my site. I've got various ebooks and things like that as well. And I do one-to-one sessions with people. But like in terms of learning how to do it, there are different schools or different training programs that'll take you through things like step by step. But some of them can take years because there are many layers, so it really depends how much in depth you want to go into it. And also if you want to specialize in particular areas. So I specialize in parenting and that kind of area. Some people specialize in business or different things like that, or use it for health. It works really well in conjunction with other things too. There's so much practical application for it.
If you want to improve your family dynamics, you can just wait for 5 very short years and I will be a human designer man and you can hire me and everything. But if you don't want to wait 5 years, Sophie does calls and in-person things that we'll leave the link in the description.
You don't have to wait for 5 years. I can simplify it all for you so that you can just I can deliver everything in one session.
And it doesn't always mean that you have to have a problem. It can also just be a way to have your family be more connected together.
Harmony. Less sibling squabbles. That's always a good thing for siblings and for parents, especially for for families like you that are spending a lot of time together. The more you can understand each other, the better.
Thank you guys
for watching this video.
And thank you, Sophie, for letting us meet you.
You're welcome.
Make sure to subscribe. So we get to 1 million subscribers by the end of the year. We'll be many more people like Sophie. So yeah.
This is another example, guys, that it's a good place to learn. It's everywhere. Wherever you are and wherever you do, and do it with your family. That is the main thing. Subscribe to our channel.
And go check out Sophie's website. She's really good at this. I would honestly say the best for families. So yeah, do it now.